we looked over and we both acknowledged that we saw a light body of a very large bipedal individual. It was subtle, but there was an illumination, like a bioluminescent white light in the shape of a very large bipedal human-looking figure walking, flanking us. I moved up to Portland in 2010. It was pretty much sight unseen. I'd never been here before, but I felt very drawn to come to this area. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona prior, and I had lived there for most of my life. I did have an opportunity in the early 2000s of working about 50 miles outside of the city in the desert. And during that time, and also earlier in my life, throughout my life, I've had a lot of different paranormal experiences. I've seen things in the sky, and those things were happening there. I didn't really focus on it. It wasn't a topic that I was interested in. It was things that happened, and not too much thought was put into it. But when I moved to Oregon in the Pacific Northwest, things changed and got even more intense and kind of forced me to really pay attention to what was going on in the skies, what was going on in the forest, what was going on in nature. And I started my kind of path in 2010 focusing on what was going on up in the skies. I was seeing a lot of UFOs, and I like that term because they are unidentified, and I don't know what they are. But I've seen many different kinds, and that research, going out into the field, spending time in areas that were known for heightened activity, created a connection. And my enthusiasm for connecting and going out into these areas, I think, really brought it forth, and they started connecting with us, with me, and my friends and my family who were going out on these trips with me. So up here in the Pacific Northwest, in the area that we're living, there's just a lot of stuff going on. And I was experiencing these things and then actively researching, learning as much as I could, going down the deep rabbit holes of the internet to try to find answers, which is really hard to do because there's just anything and everything on the internet. So I found that going out into the field was the best thing to do, having those personal experiences. And what I found was that, yes, there are UFOs. There's unidentified things flying around in the sky. Yes, there are Sasquatch in the forest, and they aren't the only ones. There's other things happening. There's things that are unexplainable, that are unidentifiable, and they're being seen not just by me, not just by the group of people that I'm with, but by many people. And it's not just here, but it's all over. I had a very specific experience that happened, and it was my first Sasquatch experience, at least my first conscious one. Maybe I've connected with them in my childhood, living in different areas where they are, but there wasn't anything that I could totally connect with and say that was a Sasquatch experience in my past. But on June 28th, 2013, everything changed in that direction, in learning, knowing, understanding, recognizing, yes, Sasquatch are real and other things are going on along with them. So on that particular night, I was on private property near Mount Adams, which is in Washington, and it's also known for the paranormal activity that happens in and around that area. It's been known for a very long time, decades, hundreds of years, possibly even thousands, because the native indigenous people of that area recognize and know that that mountain is sacred and special as well. So I was near that mountain and I was camping with a friend. I was sick. I had a upper respiratory situation going on that was causing me to kind of cough a lot. And I was camping with my friend in a van, an old van that I have. So I was in the back of this van, and she was up in the front passenger area, and we fell asleep for the evening. And around 3 a.m., I woke up and I started coughing, and I couldn't stop coughing. And I didn't want to wake her up. I didn't want to wake her up. So I opened the back of the van, and I stepped outside and went to the driver's side of the van. There was a pretty big field in front of me with a tree line behind me. Clear night. And I was out there, and I was smoking a cigarette because even though I was coughing so bad, I knew that the cigarette would bring mucus into my throat and it would stop me from coughing. So that's what I was doing. I was out there, I was having a smoke. And I heard a call and response behind me in the tree line. And I'll never forget the sound. It was a hoo-wah, 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 hoo-wah. And they were on the left and right side of me, calling back and forth to each other. And I'm standing there. I'm like, all right, that's Sasquatch. I had known of them. I had known that they existed. And at that point, with all of the UFO experiences that I had had and running in those circles, you know, it was known that there was a connection between the two, that they were on these higher dimensional, they were in these higher dimensional realms. And so I looked behind me into the tree line, and my first instinct was to telepath to them and say, "Peace be with you, much love." That was my greeting. And then I was turned around and I telepathed that. And then I turned back around and I started laughing because I couldn't believe I just telepathed to a Sasquatch, "Peace be with you and much love." And as I was laughing, I looked up. And as I looked up, two orbs of white light that were totally silent crossed right over top where I was standing. And it was about 100 feet above me. And so then I said, okay, well, now I know those two things are connected. Yes, after that experience in 2013, I hit the ground running, looking for other people who had experiences that I had, and who also knew and understood the Sasquatch like I had known and understood them, and still know and understand them to be, as a people who have abilities that are beyond our own, and who are living in a harmonious way with nature, and who are connected on these other levels with these other dimensional aspects of reality. And in my searching, I found this YouTube channel of a group of individuals up in Washington who were going out and doing these intentional campouts to connect with the Sasquatch. And they were connecting with the Sasquatch, and in the morning they'd talk about it and record the witness testimony about what happened the night before. And I was glued to that screen every single time that I saw the notification that there was a new video. And the video maker was Barb Shoop, and the show at the time was known as Squatching with Barb and Gabby. And Gabby was her dog at the time that she would go out and do her Bigfoot activities with in and around her cabin, and then later with a group of close friends near the cabin at a research area. So I was a fan of the show for a few years, and then I reached out to her on Facebook, and we became friends on Facebook. And then a little after that, she put out a little blip about how they were going to be accepting new members into the group. And they required a 500-word essay on the subject. And I just started writing. I wrote my essay, and I was honest and I was truthful about it. And I said, I know them as people. I know that they're caring and compassionate, and that they are willing to connect, and I have connected, and I want to continue that connection. And she accepted my 500-word essay, and literally almost 5 years to the day of having that first experience in June of 2013, June of 2018 was my first camp out with the group. And the experiences that I had there were absolutely life-changing on so many levels. I had experienced the scans and vibration a couple of times before when I went out on intentional campouts in other areas with other people. It wasn't something that I knew was a thing that happened to others. It was just something that I experienced, and I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a frame of reference for it. It's just like, okay, that's an interesting thing that just happened. On that first camp out with the group, with the Barb Shoop group, I felt it again. I had a series of events that happened on that trip, and it included these body scans. And I had a full body scan the first evening of that trip while I was in my tent after I had laid down to go to sleep. And it started out with hearing thumps on the ground. It was probably about between 1 and 2 a.m., something around there. I started hearing these thumps in the duff around me, like something was falling from the tree, jumping out of the tree, hitting the ground. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm laying there, and it was very cold. It was so cold, and I was pretty covered up with my covers, but my face was bare, and it was freezing. So I knew that I had a scarf next to me. I was on an air mattress, and I knew I had a scarf next to me in my bag. So I opened my eyes to reach over and grab this, and I should mention that it was very, very dark. It was pitch black dark. You could not see your hand in front of your face that evening. But when I opened my eyes to look for that scarf, I saw an orb, a very muted orb of light that had thousands of these little speckles of light within it. And it was illuminating slightly around it, so I could see the tent, and I could see the poles, and it was just sitting there. As a fan of the show and hearing the stories from the people who go on these trips, they'd experienced that as well. So it wasn't a shocking thing to me to open my eyes and see a shiny orb of light inside my tent. So I acknowledged it and just continued with the experiences. I'm laying there, the orb happens, and then the whole tent was washed over with a wave of light from the outside. It was not a flashlight. It was not someone from camp. First off, no one does those types of things. Everybody's incredibly respectful and knows the rules of what they can and cannot do at these campouts, so that we can make sure to eliminate any issues or potentials that are not Sasquatch related. So, but anyways, it was not a flashlight. It was a wave of light that went over the tent. And then I started hearing voices on the outside of the tent. And they were on this side of me, in the back. And I could not recognize the language. I could not recognize the accent. I knew that there was at least 2 individuals. There could have been 3. They were androgynous. I couldn't tell if it was masculine or feminine. It was very, neutral. And it was a calm and steady conversation. And after that happened, I felt two very large fingers, finger sizes, these two, this wide, go across my temples like this and down to my jaw. And after that happened, I had a body scan, a concentration of energy that started at my head and moved down my body, down to my feet. And I fell asleep immediately. And it's an interesting thing to say, all these crazy things happened and then you fell asleep, but that's what happened. And it's what I've experienced multiple times, where very large events will happen and then kind of immediately you'll fall asleep after it. And I fell asleep. And the next morning, I slept through the night, and then the next morning I told my story around the campfire. With orbs in the forest and orbs in photography and orbs kind of everywhere, what's going on with it? We don't really know, but they're there, they're happening, and we can have some physical evidence to dissect and try to figure it out. I had been into orb photography. I learned about what orbs were within photography and video after moving to Portland 2010 to 2013. I was very engrossed with doing my own research with that. And I've accumulated hundreds, if not thousands, of photos of orbs and also videos of them as well. There's actually, I have a pretty amazing video of orbs in this particular building. The orb photography, when I was doing this stuff and trying to learn about that, I didn't know that there was a connection to orbs and Sasquatch. And again, I didn't have that first experience until 2013. And after that, then I started learning from other people who had been having Sasquatch encounters, experiences, that orbs were a part of that. So I'm going, okay, I'm catching these orbs inside my house. I'm catching them out in fields. I'm getting them inside these buildings. What are they doing out in the forest too? And they're hanging out with a Sasquatch. In the photography, they're smaller. In the photography, you can see faces. I have photos of faces within them, geometric shapes, animals. And it's not pareidolia. It's pretty obvious. I have one of just a single eye within a golden one that's next to my friend walking through an area of Mount Hood. And what are they? I don't know. I don't know what they are, but there is a connection, and they are happening, and people are seeing them. People are filming them. People are having experiences with them. And from my own personal experience, this has happened on more than one occasion, that there has to be some sort of telepathic connection between the orbs and us, because they are responding to our thoughts. And an example of this is recently, within this last summer, I did a camp out with the group, and it was at night. I was all alone. I was staring down this road, and camp was over here, and there's trees. There's this. It goes up into this mountain on this, and the road goes this way. So there's a break in the trees where the road is, and I'm standing there, and I see this massive orb of light, and the light that comes off of these orbs, it's unnatural. I can't tell you it looks like the sun, or it looks like a light, fluorescent light or something like that. It is a light that I have never been exposed to before, except for by them. It is brilliant. It is the whitest white you've ever seen. It's electric. There's movement within the orb as it's moving, but they are also silent. There's no noise associated with them. And so on this particular sighting, this orb just underneath the tree top level and just slightly inside the trees is moving this way, catches my eye, and I see it. And at first I thought it might be a UFO. But when it came out of the trees, I realized, oh, you're not in the sky, you're down below. And now you're right here. And my first instinct when I saw it was, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to connect with you, whoever you are. Thank you. And as I was thinking this, the orb started coming down the road. And it's getting closer to me. It's coming towards me. And we all have the fight or flight response system built within our bodies. And that will kick in. Whether you have had 1,000 experiences or none, it still kicks in. And so when that orb started coming towards me, I internally kind of freaked out. It's like, you're coming over here. You're headed in my direction. And it gave me a little anxiety. And that orb picked up on that. However it did. Knowing I didn't run, I didn't move, I didn't do anything physical. But within my internal, I was getting a little anxiety on the fact that this was moving towards me. And then when I felt that way, it stopped. And then it retreated back to its original trajectory, its original spot, and it continued along its path. And it moved this way to where it was over our camp, and then I watched it descend down to the ground. Recently, this past summer, I went on another camp out with a couple of the members, a few of the members from the main group, but this was kind of like an unofficial side camping trip that we did. And it was near Nacelle, Washington, north of Astoria, in that area of Washington. It's a really cool campground. It was the first time that I had camped there, although they had been there before, some of the group members, and had some pretty phenomenal experiences. So I'd visited them for day trips when they were out there, but I hadn't stayed. But this time I did. And I think it was on the second or third night of the camp out, two of the members, Mitch and Kevin, they took drums and they went walking down the path at night to play the drums, because that's a way that we can connect with the Sasquatch. They appreciate music. They appreciate when we make music. They are drawn to it. So they're walking down this path and they're playing drums, sacred native drums, and they see this red orb to the left of them in the tree line. And it's not just stationary, it's moving. It's going up 50 feet. It's coming back down. It's going to eye level. It's moving left. It's moving right. It's doing all of these things. It's staying on for 3 seconds, and then it disappears, and then it comes back on for 3 seconds. And that's the continuous state in which it's in. And it's like a stoplight red. So they come back over into camp. They're like, hey, there's this orb out in the tree line. Let's all go look. Let's all check it out. So we all went as a group. No flashlights. There's no moonlight. No flashlights. We don't want to have any light flooding into the area as we're walking. So it is pitch black, and we're all huddled together. And we're walking. And to the left, Sandy and I, we looked over and we both acknowledged that we saw a light body of a very large bipedal individual. It was subtle, but there was an illumination, like a bioluminescent white light in the shape of a very large bipedal human-looking figure walking, flanking us as we were walking as a group towards this orb. But in the same fashion of, like, you know, these are not the ones, the Jedi you were looking for, however that saying goes, we didn't focus on that. We were like, oh yeah, there's that. Let's go to the red orb. We didn't focus on that, but it happened. And our attention, our non-attention or lack of attention on that event was there influence on that? Was there an influence from that individual on us that said, don't look over here? I don't know. I can only speculate, but that's what happened. I didn't try to deviate from my path and stare over here at this individual. I kept on going. We all kept on going until we got to the orb. And we watched it for over a half an hour as a group, going up 50 feet in the air, going to the right, going to the left, falling down, still doing this blinking. We're like, how far is it? Depth is very hard to determine when you don't have any flashlights and you're inside of a forest in the middle of the night. So I had remembered I had a night vision monoscope, for like a hunting monoscope. It was given to me as a gift, and I had brought it with me. I was like, oh, I'm going to go get that. I'm going to go grab that so we can see what's going on with this and how far away it is. And when I got back, Kevin was still there, and I take the monoscope and I'm like, all right, here's this tree right here. I'm going to be able to see this tree in here, and then I'm going to be able to map how far and how many trees it is until I get to where this orb is at. And as I did that, I realized that it was only about 6 feet away, 6 to 10 feet away. It was not far away at all. It was very close. And we were goofy. We were saying hi to it. We were, you know, come on over. You had come on over to camp, you know. We really didn't know what we were dealing with. But we were being friendly, and it was not far. One of the members, she had her cell phone on her. I didn't have mine on me, but she had hers, and I said, can I use your cell phone? And I filmed it. And it is an incredible video. The next day, when we went to go investigate the area with light during the daytime, we get to the exact spot because I was able to map it the night before with the night vision. And when we get to that spot, we see 2 very fresh fist prints inside the duff. And I should mention that where this orb was, the ground, if we were back here, the ground sloped down. So it was this perfect area for someone to be crouched down with their fists in the duff, peeking up and staring. And so we filmed that as well. We documented the fist prints in the duff. So what are the orbs? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but I do know that they're real. I do know that they exist in some dimensional way that interacts with our own. I do have theories of what I think they are. With the orb photography and kind of your city orbs, I guess, you know, the things that we see in our photos and videos at our home or at locations or whatever, these little guys that are getting picked up with the cameras. I think they might be a form of travel. We all know, at least there's definitely a lot of speculation that we astrally travel at night and that we're going places, we're seeing things, we're in dream time. Are we taking the shape of an orb when we're doing that? because it does seem like a way in which you can travel. We can say, yes, they're traveling, they're moving. Is this a form of travel? Is that what's happening with the Sasquatch? Are they able to create an orb outside of themselves? Are they able to travel in an orb form? Is it something completely else and they're just in cahoots? Like they're in cahoots with what's happening in the sky? Not sure. I only have my own speculations based off of the experiences that I've had. But it does seem like the Sasquatch aren't the only ones that utilize this vehicle of an orb to travel through this space-time. I would say that my or anyone's level of openness to the experience is going to heighten the experience. If you have an open mind for these things, if you're willing to just let something happen and not judge it or put it into a box of reasoning, which our brain really likes to do. But if you can step out of that and just be a very discernible witness, it's going to help. It's going to help the most in having an experience. Because when you're open to it, it's an unlocking of the door. And when you're open to it, then they're going to be open to showing themselves to you. And what I've noticed and what I've experienced, specifically with the Sasquatch and the UFO activity, is that they're never going to give you more than you can actually handle. And there's a whole range of experiences that people have, whether it's one sighting in 1972 that changed their lives forever and they never had an experience ever again, to people who are habituating with them on their property for 30 plus years and having a personal connection with their families. And that the range is from both of those extremes. And if you are willing to open yourself up to the experience, then they are willing to work with you. And I do feel that they're, at least for me, and my intention of going down this path with the Sasquatch is that I know that they have something that they can teach me. And I am a student of theirs. They have wisdom that they are imparting on my life through these experiences and connections. And they're helping me become a better person. They've helped me become wiser and kinder and more compassionate. And it's beautiful. And I have so much gratitude for them. I am a better person for having them in my life. Absolutely. I know that all of this stuff that I've been talking about just seems like it's right out of the left field and it's not part of reality. And that I must be a crazy person, or maybe I'm doing a bunch of mushrooms while I'm out in the forest. We don't do drugs. We don't mess with drugs when we're going out on campouts. There's no psychedelic interference in the experience. I'm coming at this with an open heart, but also with true discernment and a scientific grounding, I guess, as well. How are we all not crazy? How are we all sane? I don't know. You know, what is crazy? What is normal? What is not normal? Because it does seem like we're all having these experiences on one level or another. And if we were all actually honest with each other, we'd realize that. It's all happening way more often than what society or this world wants you to believe. I've always had the mindset that at least during and after these experiences, after I've had all these experiences, we say that there's magic in this world and that there's magical aspects. But at this point, no, this whole place is magical. That's all there is. It's not just this little part over here. It's everything. It's everywhere. We were at Bumping Lake, and this guy, Tom, he was like potentially teleported to a different place. We were at Rock Camp. Do you guys know about Rock Camp? It's one of the areas at Bumping Lake, and it has the most activity ever. I was gifted from the Sasquatch a muffler that was from the 40s, we think, because it was hand welded. And they don't hand weld, they stopped doing that like in the 60s or something like that. So this thing has been in the forest and it was an exhaust pipe from like a heavy piece of machinery tractor thing from the 40s. And it showed up right outside my tent door, like on the second morning that I was there. So this other guy, Tom, he was in this camp too. And the last night, again, we get to the end of the camp, shit gets weird. So he was in his Jeep Liberty, and he was in the driver's seat, and he was eating popcorn and just like watching outside of his vehicle, and he saw these little green people running around his truck, right? And he's like, "What the fuck?" And he sees him in the mirror, but when he looks, he can't see him. But then he sees him in the mirror, and they're running around. And he said the light went down like this all around him, and when it came back up, he was inside of a warehouse from the 40s that had all of these massive stacks of beams, like metal beams, and then like cars from the 40s. And it was this huge warehouse. And he was still in his car eating his popcorn going, what just happened? And then it goes down again. The light goes down, comes back up. And now he's in a different part of the forest than where he was once before. And there's these massive boulders all around him. And for 2 seconds, he thought, maybe I should open the door. And he's like, no, if I do that, I don't know where I'll be stuck if I can't come back. So he just stayed there. The light went down again. When he came back up, he was back in camp. Should we connect with the Sasquatch? Yes. In my experience, it's been the most positive, uplifting, and beautiful thing, one of the most that's ever happened to me in my life. What do we learn when we learn that they're real? We learn that there's a people who have families, who are in this harmonious life with nature, and they're doing this without effort. We have to give effort to try to be in a harmonious nature with ourselves or with our environment. They do it naturally, and that's something that we can learn from. Humans have so much that we need to evolve out of, right? Like, we're here to learn these things. They're here to learn whatever they're here to learn. And it seems like we're all interacting with this realm. What is this? I think these questions have been posed many different ways, many different times throughout history, but they're questions that have never been answered. Who are we? Where are we? What do we do while we're here? What do we do while we're here? I think the biggest thing that we do is we learn and we grow and we heal. Those things are the most important, at least in my life, of what I'm here to do. And they have been a massive part of that. How can they not be when one enters into the forest and has an experience with an individual that the world has told you is not real? And this experience is one that is uplifting, is comical in terms of like they have good humor. They're funny. They're really funny. An example of their humor is I did a camp out with a couple of the people from the Barbing Goldie group, and we were on private property, and we had massive activity on the second night that we were there, to include orbs flying around camp, body scans. I had a body vibrational energy thing happen to me for over 45 minutes that evening. The next day, we were going around the land and doing a tour of the land for Kevin and Sandy, who were new to the land. And we were all standing in this area. We had all the Sasquatch activity the night before. We knew that they were around. We could feel them. And my friend who lives on the property, she casually mentioned within our conversation, she said, yeah, I'm trying to work on my distrust for humanity. And as soon as she said that, there was a wood knock that happened from inside the tree line. So we all laughed. We all agreed we need to work on our distrust for humanity. They have stuff they can teach us. They absolutely have stuff that they can teach us about ourselves, about who we are, about where we are, and what we're supposed to do while we're here.
Yeah, that might be the light that we saw originally.
Oh.
I think that's what we saw originally about like an hour ago.
And it's really, to me, illuminating the tree it's on, the space it's in.
So there are definitely
It's going
two
down
lights.
now.
We got a red and a white.
It's going back down.
Because we come over here, there's
Oh,
the
that was a
red.
flash. Wow, I must be seeing my own light show. Which I could be. I'm having flashes of light in the house. This is different.
Are you?
Look at how it looks. Does anyone come here? Anyone want to look at this? Come here and look at this.
I don't see the...
Oh, it's this bright light that you have. Yeah. That's baby steps.
Is everybody seeing it?
The red light is going to move further away, it seems.
Oh, you got it on video.
Mm-hmm. There was a flash.
Oh, yeah, there's a red light. Oh shit, there's a red. Has anybody talked out to it?
Yeah.
Kevin has said if you're good intentions and nothing bad, you can stay and come closer. If you're bad, then we want you to leave.
It's getting
And we're here for
Oh, okay. So I got it.
good intentions and
Oh, he's going way.
nothing. We're just interested. We're just curious.
Okay, so now we can reduce
Ashley,
that.
right
It's
on.
coming
I'm glad
closer.
you know it. She's getting it totally. Like I can't even see what she's getting.
It's right there.
And I see a total white one up there.
I know.
Okay, you guys,
Two
the
ways.
red
It's
light's going
illuminating
downhill.
the tree and going way up it.
Yep.
Isn't
Right
it?
through here, sister.
Careful.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, there was a flash.
Yep.
See it?